Hi, my name is Ashley and I'm a mom of 2 little girls. I have a 4-year-old named Kylie and I also have a 2-year-old named Mia. So for today's video, I'm actually filming at my dining room table because I needed a lot more space for all of the things that I wanted to show you guys today. So not my normal filming location, and it actually feels a little bit odd to me too, but we will work with it for this week. So as many of you already know, my daughter Kylie was supposed to be attending a brick and mortar Montessori preschool this year, but because of the pandemic, she was only there for a couple of weeks, and my husband and I made a really hard decision and decided to go ahead and pull her out. And so I am now homeschooling her, and I'm actually really excited about it. I've received quite a lot of questions regarding the different kinds of materials that I'm using with her for homeschooling, and although I am formally trained in Montessori for 0 to 3 and not 3 to 6, I have picked up quite a bit already in my own research and learning about these things as I've been doing them with her. And so from one busy parent to another, today I would like to share with you all of the Montessori homeschool resources that I am using for my preschooler this year. Okay, so before we get started, 2 really quick things. First off, this is not a how to homeschool video. I am simply just sharing the resources that I have decided to use with my daughter this year in the hopes that it will give some of you some ideas or a starting point if you're just getting started as well. And I definitely don't want to overwhelm anyone into thinking that they need to have any of these materials that I'm about to share with you in order to effectively implement Montessori style homeschooling. It is totally possible to DIY nearly every last shred of your materials and your resources. It just takes a little bit more time and dedication and planning is all. So I'm just gonna share with you what we're using and then, take from it what you will. I also want you to know that this video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. All of the materials that I'm gonna be sharing with you, and there are quite a few of them, are materials that my husband and I decided to invest our own money into, and we feel that they are worthwhile. That's why we're using them, and that is why I'm gonna share them with you guys today. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So last year I was actually homeschooling my daughter as well, but definitely more informally than the way that I'm approaching it this year. So I didn't really spend a lot of time and effort or resources or investing money into lots of different things in order to homeschool because I knew that I would be sending her to school this year, and I wanted to keep those materials special for when she actually got to school. But seeing as how I'm going to be homeschooling with her now for what may very well be another year, I decided to explore some other options, and I did invest in a few other things for this year. Last year, the only thing that I decided to add on to what we were already doing at home was to invest in some kind of a formal reading program, because she basically reached a point where I was at my own max for understanding how to teach a child how to read, like beyond letter sounds and things like that. And so I decided to look into reading program options that were available that were in line with what she would be doing at school. And I found out that her school follows the Washika reading program. So I looked into that and actually decided to purchase a set for us to use at home. And I'm actually really happy that I did that because not only are the materials really beautiful, but my daughter actually really enjoys the program and she's making some really solid progress. So I don't want to go into like a ton of detail on how each of the things that I'm about to share with you works because that would make this video insanely long. If you do want more detail on something specific that you see, then leave me a comment down below and I can potentially turn it into a future video. But for today, I just want to give you a little overview. So the Washika reading program. So this is what it looks like. It's just this little skinny box, and then you get a guide to how to present the materials for the adult. And inside the box, mine's a little bit messy because we're using it, but you get all of these little sets of colored cards. So right now my daughter's on the orange set, which is the second one in the series. So we've got some of those on top because we used those earlier this week. But the first set is actually all of the red cards. And I have them separated out, the ones that we've done, into little Ziploc baggies just to keep it organized for me because I don't have another way to store them right now. I think there's 8 in each of the different colors. And then all the colors are, let me pull this set out here so you can see. There's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, and then I think gold is the last one. So all of these little cards come to you like that. They're already in order, ready to go. They've got a picture on the front, and then there's a word on the back. and the words correspond to different like kinds of words. Like the very basic one, the red series where they start, are CVC words, and then it works its way up in complexity and adds on different rules and things like that so that your child can progress very smoothly into learning how to read very fluently. So you get the picture cards, and then you get the little singular word label cards that match each of the pictures. And then you also get these little packets of booklets, and inside each booklet are a series of new words that follow the same rule, but it's just the word. There are no pictures or anything like that go along with it. So it's just like more practice basically. And the actual format of the program is super easy to follow, which is why I love it so much, because once your child gets used to how it works, they can do it fairly independently. So the first thing they do is they write out the word using the movable alphabet. So they lay out their picture cards and they use the letters from the movable alphabet to spell out the picture that they're seeing on the card. And then after they've done that, they're challenged with then reading. So they look at the picture labels and then they match it up. This is not the match, but they match it to the actual picture card. So writing and then reading. And then after they've done that successfully, then they use the little booklets and they go through and they actually read the words to the adult or to themselves that are in the little booklet for extra reinforcement of that particular like rule that they're looking at. And so they do that until they're really comfortable with that set, and then they move on to the next one. So like I said, super easy to use, very beautiful materials, and definitely a worthwhile investment if a reading program is something that you're interested in potentially bringing into your home. So I will put a link to the Washika reading program in the description box down below for you. Again, not sponsored, not affiliate, nothing like that, just sharing it with you because I do really think it's a great program. And I will put links to everything else as well that you're about to see coming up in the video in the description box too. So if anything else piques your interest, there should be a link to it down below. Oh, and I almost forgot, there is also a DIY version of the Washika reading program on their website as well. So if you don't want to go out and buy the whole program right off the bat, maybe you just want to try it first and see if it's something that you think will work for you and your child, they actually have downloadable versions of each of the different colored sets available like individually. I think it's like $8 or something, but you can actually buy them, print them, laminate them, try them out yourself at home. If you want the whole set and you know you want the whole thing, then you can invest in the entire program all at once. But if you'd rather do it piece by piece and kind of go at your own pace, then the download, DIY, print and laminate option might be something worth exploring. And I'll put a link to that in the description box below for you as well. Now, other than the Washika boxes last year, the only thing that I really spent any time and effort or money on was some of the more what I would consider like foundation Montessori materials that you almost have to have in order to do Montessori style learning, especially when it comes to reading and mathematics. So I do have a couple of things that I wanted to like put out there for you guys if you're considering doing Montessori homeschooling, or if you're already doing it and you're not quite sure what you need to really focus on. These are some of the things that I would consider some core components, and these are things that we do have in our own home. So I actually have a list on my phone, this way I don't forget. The first one is the sandpaper letters, in order to help your child learn the very baseline letter sounds, because they can't do any reading until they know the letter sounds. So sandpaper letters, which you can buy, but you can also DIY them as well. And I actually have a purchased set and a DIY set, and they both work great. So do whatever fits your budget. I also decided to invest last year in an actual movable alphabet, the print version. They also come in cursive, but I know that my daughter's school uses the print version, so that's the one that I decided to go with. And this is also something that you can totally DIY. There are printable, like downloadable printable versions of movable alphabets that you can print out and make yourself and use. And I've never used one, but I'm sure they work just as fine. I just personally had a preference for the real thing. So this was something that I decided to invest in. But a movable alphabet is something that your child would definitely need if they're learning how to read and write Montessori style. I also think it's important to have access to real objects for your child's language work. So whether that be the little small miniature objects that go along with a lot of the CVC words, you can buy those in sets online. Again, there's a link down below to the set that we have that we really like. but they can also be just like, you know, the little animal figurines or household objects, kitchen utensils, things from nature. Those can work just as well too. But I do think there needs to be something tangible, hands-on, not just pictures for your child's very first introductions to language work. I also think it's really nice to have a set of sandpaper numbers for your child to work with, especially for those very early math activities where they're just learning their numbers. Again, you can purchase them if you want, but they're also super easy to DIY. That is actually the route that we took. We just, you know, got some blank index cards. I wrote the numbers in nice big black bold font and then went over it with a little bit of glitter glue for some texture and called it a day, and they work great. And finally, if you are really serious about doing Montessori style math at home with your child, then definitely have a set of colored beads as well as the golden beads. So again, you can purchase these in sets where they're ready to go and they are absolutely gorgeous, or you can DIY them. I've seen a ton of like printable versions that you can just cut out and laminate, and your child can use them in the same exact way that they would use the actual bead material. And so whatever fits your budget, just work with it. Now, of course, there may be some other materials that you really feel like you need as you start going through the curriculum. For example, in math, the teens and tens boards. You can purchase these things or you can DIY them. A lot of the time you can DIY things. So just as an example for you, these are my teens and tens boards that I created for my daughter. They're literally an Amazon box that I just cut apart and printed out some numbers and glued them on. And then the numbers, I also did the same thing. They're just little bits of cardboard with the numbers. They're actually starting to come apart a little bit and I have to re-glue them because they've gotten a little bit of love in our use. But super simple. You don't need to spend an arm and a leg on every single Montessori material that you decide to bring into your home. So teens and tens boards are just one example. I have a few written down. Also, sound cylinders you can buy, but you can also DIY them. That's what we did. Smelling bottles, metal insets for writing, the stamp game. There are a ton of things that like are very classic Montessori materials that you probably want to have, or you know, at least be able to try in your homeschool environment, and you don't have to buy all of them. You can totally DIY a lot of them. You just gotta get on Google and type it in, you know, DIY stamp game Montessori, and I'm sure something will pop up. And then of course, when we're talking about Montessori homeschooling, there is another huge area of the curriculum that you cannot leave out, and that is practical life. So I have materials on hand just that I've collected over the last 4 years or so now, small child-sized kitchen tools and, you know, cleaning implements and things like that that we already have in our home that we're using just as part of our existing day-to-day practical life activities. I'm not setting up anything super special on trays or anything like that that's on her shelves. We're kind of just doing practical life on the go as the opportunities naturally arise in our normal daily lives. So that means that if I'm doing the dishes and she wants to assist, she's more than welcome to assist. If I'm doing laundry, then she is there helping me load and unload the washer and fold things and put things away. Actually, the other day I was out of the house on an errand and she was with my husband at home by herself. I had her little sister with me, and my husband texted me to say that she disappeared for like 10 minutes and he didn't know where she was. And then he found her in the laundry room and he was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just doing mommy a favor." And she was emptying the dryer into the wash basket all by herself. And I was like, perfect. So she's getting her practical life in just through our normal everyday routines. And then I also have a cart full of arts and crafts supplies, always available. It's actually right over here. If you guys watch our videos and you know where I'm pointing to, but it's right over there. They have a small table, and then the art cart is what they call it, that has everything that they need for their creative endeavors whenever they feel the creative spark. So those materials are always out as well. Now, what is new for this year for us is that I actually started looking at, I don't want to call it a curriculum because there really isn't a curriculum per se in Montessori. You're following the child's interests, you're going with their lead. And so not every child's journey looks the same. Whereas the word curriculum, I feel, implies, you know, everybody's doing the same thing. But bear with me. I was looking for a curriculum of some kind just to give me a little bit more direction to follow, especially when it came to reading and mathematics, because I wanted to make sure that I was doing it in the same way that she will be experiencing if and when, hopefully, she goes back to her brick and mortar preschool. And I know a fair bit, but like I said, I'm not formally trained in 3 to 6. So I was looking for something to give me a bit more direction. And my training is actually through the North American Montessori Center. And I happen to be aware of the fact that they also have a Montessori 3 to 6 homeschool program that they sell independently of all of their certification programs. And I remembered that when I was thinking about it and went and did a little bit of research and started looking at, what resources we have, what things we don't, and what it could possibly offer for us. And I ultimately decided that it was a worthwhile investment. And it was an investment, but given the fact that my husband and I were paying a tuition for my daughter's preschool, I figured, well, she's not there anymore this year. We're not having to pay that tuition. And when she goes back next year for her kindergarten year, her last year of primary, it's actually a public school. So starting from kindergarten, they are not allowed to charge a tuition at all. So I figured, we're not spending that money, so we might as well put it somewhere else, put it to good use. And I figured if this is something that could make our lives a lot smoother and easier at home, then that was worthwhile in my opinion. So we decided to invest in the NAMC homeschool curriculum or program, whatever you want to call it. And so far, so good. And I want to share it with you guys in case this is something that you might be considering for yourselves. So the program comes with this little folder that inside contains a couple of different things. The first of which is a series of curriculum maps, which I think are super useful to have, again, if you're not trained formally for 3 to 6, on kind of a rough estimate of when in the year certain kinds of activities should be introduced, but again, based on your child and following their lead ultimately. But it gives you some rough guidance, and it's all the different activities that are included in the entire program for the full 3 years for 3-year-olds to 6-year-olds. So that's super helpful. They also have like a little how to get started with it and how to interpret all the materials correctly so that you're off to a good start. And then also inside the folder is a little USB drive that contains, let me make sure I say all this here correctly, blackline masters for the different things that you might need to print out for some of the activities, material templates, bonus activities, mastery checklists so that you can keep track of your child's progress, and then I think the digital versions of the curriculum maps. So there's a ton of resources included just in this little folder alone that I feel are incredibly valuable, at least for me. So that's the first part. And then along with the folder, it's a big box. And when it shows up, it's got these 6 curriculum program manuals that go along. Like this basically is the program right here. So there's one for each of the subject areas. You've got mathematics, culture and science, language arts, sensorial, practical life, and then there's also a guide to theory and practice for anybody who may be totally brand new to Montessori and doesn't know anything about the history or like the how and the why of it basically, and how to conduct their child's learning experiences from a Montessori perspective. That's all in this guide. So this is also super valuable if this is something that is really new for you. So the manuals are color coded to keep everything kind of cohesive across all of the materials that you have, the curriculum maps and everything, but the guides themselves are insanely detailed. I've flipped through all of them at this point, and I'm starting to pick and choose our first set of lessons because I just got this in the mail earlier this week. But I am so impressed with the amount of detail that has gone into these guides. I mean, soup to nuts, everything you could possibly want to know, all of the extension activities, they've put a lot of work into this, and I'm really happy with it. So in addition to all of the actual how-to for the adult, you also get access to some of those foundational math and language materials if you don't already have them, so that's super cool. The first of which is the math materials. So I put them in a little tray that I already had. The tray doesn't come with it, but all the beads inside do. So you've got a set of the golden bead materials that you need, as well as 10 sets of the colored bead bars, the gray negative bead bars, and then 1 set of the black and white bead stair. You also get, again, this is my basket, but all the materials that are inside are what came in the box. You also get 9 of the 1,000 cubes, so there's 9 in this bin here. And then you also get 20 of these 100 squares. So this is part of the golden bead material that goes along with the golden bead 10 bars that you just saw in the other tray. So 20 of these guys, and then 9 of the 1,000 cubes. And then in addition to the math materials, you also get these phonics storybooks and workbooks that are designed to accompany, like they're not standalone, but they're designed to accompany all of the standard, like authentic Montessori style language lessons that are already outlined in the curriculum guides that I showed you guys earlier. And from what I can tell, they seem very similar to what you would find in the Washika reading program, except that they're all just DIY. I think all the templates and everything that you need are on that little USB drive, and then you just print them out and laminate them and put them together yourself. So with that said, if I had known that I was going to be investing in this entire program this year, I would likely not have invested in the Washika reading program because it's a little bit repetitive at this point. But I think what we're personally going to do is just continue the Washika reading program as is, and I'll kind of see where it overlaps and maybe omit some of those lessons from this program and then kind of go from there. And then as far as all of the other materials that you would need to create hands-on learning experiences for your child that go along with all of the other areas of the curriculum, you know, like the culture and science and the sensorial and all that stuff, a lot of that is included on the little USB drive so that you can print it out, laminate it, and make your own like printable version sets of things. There are also a lot of activities in the guides that seem to include little DIY instructions using a lot of like household materials and very basic arts and crafts supplies. So it looks really easy to do, honestly. And I'm excited to try some of those out. Okay, my battery just died. So if the frame is completely different, that's why I had to get up and move things around. But anyway, we are on the last section anyway that I wanted to share with you guys for the stuff that I'm using, and it's what I'm considering kind of like my supplemental resources. It's just like little add-ons and things that I have found helpful that I think you guys might really enjoy too. And so the first one is something that is a little less traditional, I guess, than what you might find ordinarily in a Montessori classroom, but they are Montessori-esque, and they seem to be really enjoyable for my daughter. The first one is this Montessori reading workbook. It is Montessori style, so the style of learning is the same, and that's why I was okay with it. This is just something that we use like, I don't know, maybe once or twice a week. It's not something that I force on her. It's an option. Whenever we're doing our reading lesson, it's an option for that day if she wants to do it. And so she does, usually about once or twice a week. And so the lessons are a lot of cut and paste, like I said. The whole beginning is just reinforcing different letter sounds and words and cutting out, you know, like the pictures that correspond to the different words at the bottom and, you know, recognizing those letter sounds and hearing those. So we have actually gone through the entire alphabet at this point, and she feels really comfortable with that because she's been good with her letter sounds for a while. And we're starting to move into, we did some beginning sounds activities. This was something we did earlier today, which was basically review for her because she's actually reading like 3 and 4 letter words fairly fluently, but we did it anyway just for some reinforcement. And now we're going to be moving into some 3-part cards and more traditional Montessori style learning activities just in, you know, paper cut and paste form. And so this is something that, like I said, we'll use periodically, but this is not forming the basis of our learning by any means. It's just a supplement. So I found this on Amazon, again, link down below. She actually really enjoys it. Like, kids like using scissors and glue. So, you know, something to consider. Along with that, I picked up these 2 dry erase books that are practicing number writing and letter writing. And it uses a dry erase marker, which she like is really excited about every time. It's like a special thing that she gets to use the dry erase markers for whatever reason. It's just very basic practice with number tracing, same thing for the letters. And then because it is created by highlights, it's kind of interspersed with all of these like little mazes and I spies and putting things in sequential order, like little small learning activities, you know, like finding hidden letters in the picture, finding hidden numbers, like things like that. So definitely very geared for preschoolers. She's very interested in these activities and she loves practicing writing her letters and numbers. And because it's dry erase, like I said, we can, you know, erase it and do it 1,000 times over. This is something that I thought was just for like, you know, practice whenever she decides she's interested. I don't think she uses these every week. I would say maybe every other week she picks these up and decides that she wants to do them. Not that anything is ever forced upon her, truth be told, because everything is Montessori style, so it's follow your child's lead. But what I mean is we're not sitting down and doing drill and kill sessions out of workbooks ever. I also like to use a lot of the Montessori inspired printable activities that you can find online on blogs everywhere, and Teachers Pay Teachers. There's all kinds of places to get them. I actually mentioned one of the resources to you in my last video, the Fall Mega Bundle, which the sale for is actually over now. I'm so sorry if you missed out on it, but there should be another one coming up pretty soon because they are seasonal, and I'll be sure to let you guys know when the next one comes out. But yeah, it's a really great place to find just like little activities. For example, I have one here that we did earlier today from that bundle. This was just a little sorting between small, medium, and large activity. And then I've got this little cup here where I had all of the printouts. They're just, whoops, I dropped a few. They're small. There's some, you know, large size ones. I just put little Velcro dots on the back. You could also just do this as a cut and paste style activity too, but I wanted it to be reusable for her little sister in the future, so I did it with Velcro. But you just sort them, you know, there's small, medium, and large ones as the name implies, and so they just go through and sort them out and then stick them to the little mat until they've gotten through all the pieces. So little activities like this are really fun because I can incorporate different elements of the seasons, holiday events, you know, special interests that she has, like, you know, dinosaurs or whatever. So I like to look for activities online for things like that. And then our last supplemental resource is actually a new one that I just decided to try out. It is a subscription service for preschoolers, so just for the 3 to 6 age range. It's called Montessori by Mom. So similar to, like, you know, KiwiCo and Little Passports and all those things that we've been trying out for the last couple of years, but designed for preschoolers and specifically Montessori style activities. So we got our first box. I have it right here to show you guys. This one is the music toolbox. And I'm actually missing some of the materials out of the box right now, truthfully, because they're on the shelf right now so that Kylie can actually use them. But I do have a couple of the materials in here, as well as the guide that comes with it. So each of the toolboxes has a different theme. This one was music. The one that's coming next month is called, I think, Space Explorer, and it's all like space-themed activities and learning. And so it's really neat because it includes all of the actual hands-on materials that you need. And then inside the guide, it gives you, I mean, there must be, I haven't actually counted, but I think there's like at least 30 different activities that are all Montessori activities that you can do with the materials that are in the box. In this one, you know, like we got a harmonica, we got some little sticks and a little drum that she was able to decorate. There are actual rhythm practice cards in here. This is an activity we haven't tried yet, but there's like rhythm practice cards, and there's videos on the website that go along with it to teach you how to do the different lessons if you're not sure how. We got some bells in here, and what else? We got a small version of the little rhythm cards. We also got a set of sound cylinders, like the sound matching cylinders, and a whole set of the Safari LTD instruments tube figurines, and then the 3-part cards that go with them. Like, there was a ton of stuff in this box, so I thought it was incredible for what they're offering. Again, I don't have an affiliation with this company in any way. The only thing that I do have that I thought I would mention because it would help you guys out is they have a like referral program that anyone can be part of, you know, once they subscribe to getting the boxes each month. And by giving you my link, it gives you $10 off. So I'll leave that down below if you find that helpful at all. And then one last thing, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say this, but I feel like it really is like a supplemental resource. It's just being outside in our own backyard, like that is a huge resource that's free. Spending time outside in nature and just getting dirty and getting all of those sensorial experiences. So we spend a lot of time outside. You know, we have a bird feeder in the backyard, we have a garden, so she gets a lot of hands-on experience with, you know, like the elements and nature and how like the cycles of life work and things like that by doing those kinds of things. So that in and of itself is like having another resource as part of our homeschool program. Okay, and that is that. I really hope that you guys found something helpful in this video. As I said again at the beginning, I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed like, oh, I don't have any of these things, there's no way I can do this. You do not need to have everything that we have decided to try out or to incorporate into our program. You can DIY almost all of it. It just takes a little bit more time is all. And I have just decided to invest in a couple of time-saving options for myself personally, but that may not be something that every family pursues, and that's okay too. Take the ideas, take the inspiration, take whatever information you found helpful and tailor it to your family's needs. That's really my goal here with this video today. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave those in the comments down below and I will do my best to respond and answer your questions. If you are interested in learning more about doing Montessori at home with a child from 0 to 3 or positive discipline parenting, I also offer a couple of e-courses that walk you through it step by step. So I'll be sure to leave a link to that in the description box down below just in case you're interested in checking it out. And just in case you're new to my channel, I also wanted to let you know that this video is part of a much larger series on this YouTube channel called Montessori at Home, which is aimed at providing practical tips and advice for busy parents like you and I for implementing Montessori at home with our children. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in watching more of, then you might consider subscribing to my channel. This way you don't miss a new video because I do upload a new one just like this one every single week. Thank you so much for watching today and I'll see you next time. Bye.